All right, old school NBA fans, self-research NBA facts. Got another video for you. As always, thanks to anybody who watches my videos, subscribes to my channel. I really appreciate it. Let me just say that this channel is not. I'm not shooting a drama here. You know what I mean? This is for educational and informative purposes. All right, so if you like the channels with the highlights and all that, hey, no problem. Go watch them. You know, the little clips about somebody in a movie saying something clever or whatever. Cool, no problem. Go for that. But this is strictly an informative, educational channel. And, it's stuff that I learn when I do my research, and I'm just sharing what I learned. That's it. There's no tricks. It's just, pretty much straight to the point. No fluff here. I'm not trying to build some, big narrative at the end of it or whatever. So anyway, without further ado, this video here is I'm comparing two players. Now, I hear a lot recent years about how great Scottie Pippen is. And I've done a few videos on this, but never one like a head-to-head like I'm doing here. I got my whiteboard now, so it just kind of made more sense, kind of trying it out. So Scottie Pippen, when all of us were watching back in the 90s and whatnot, he was developing as a young player. He was getting a little better each year. He peaked from about 92 to 95. Those 4 years is basically what Pippen's peak was. Before that, he was still maybe a little thin, a little bit timid. He just wasn't as explosive as he was maybe in that 4 year period. And then after, when Jordan came back in 96 for the full season, Pippen, he was still really good, but he just wasn't as good as that time frame. And then between the 97 and 98 season, when he got hurt, he was just never the same player. 98, he was really good, but when it came playoff times, he just was not the Pippen of old. Go watch the film. And then after he left the Bulls, he was not close to the same player. Never made an all-star team, never made an all-NBA, never even averaged 15 points a game after that. So he really had about an 8 to 10 year, prime, with peaking in those years, like I said, between about 92 to 95, in that range. So I've heard people like FYF Sports say, oh, Pippen, he should be looked at as a top 10 all-time player. Ridiculous. I did a video on that. Stupid. Phil Jackson in The Last Dance said, he might have been the second best player in the league, which is just ludicrous. Pippen was definitely a good player, a very good player. He deserves top 75 credentials. He was vital to the Bulls' success. But to push it as if he was maybe the primary reason why they won. Like Jordan, before Pippen, couldn't win. Before Phil Jackson, he couldn't do anything. But as soon as Pippen came in, he changed everything. That is just the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And there are plenty of players that could have came in and would have did just as good a job, in my mind. And again, I'm not trying to throw shade on Scottie Pippen. It's not personal. It's to destroy these narratives that these people keep pumping out. Just idiotic. Like, call Pippen what he was. He was a good number 2 player, a very good player, excellent at times, but he was never going to be the guy. He was never going to lead a team to a championship. It was just never going to happen. He was not that kind of player. He was a strong defensive player, and he was a little above average on offense, but he was never going to get you 30 points a game. That's just not who Pippen was. He was a good all-around player, long-armed, all that, good length. As a small forward, he was a nice piece to win a championship. But that piece could have been replaced very easily. So what I'm doing is I'm comparing head-to-head Scottie Pippen to Gary Payton. Now, their careers are quite similar effectiveness as players. And I think there's a big difference between somebody who was a better player or somebody who had a better career. You look at the resume and you see 6 championships. That's on your resume. However, not being the best player, you're not going to get the credit or the blame. That's always going to go to the best player on the team. It just is. Just like in football, the quarterback's going to get the blame, every time, unless somebody makes some stupid bonehead play or something. But for the most part, that's just how it works. So anyway, Scottie Pippen was a 22-year-old rookie. Now this guy was not dynamite right away in the NBA. And neither was Gary Payton. These guys both needed a few years to develop, to become, really good players. So as rookies, Scottie Pippen averaged 7.9 points a game on 46.3% shooting. Gary Payton, 7.2 points per game on 45% shooting. So pretty close. They're similar. You might even say Pippen might be a hair better. Okay, whatever. All right, in their careers, Scottie Pippen made 7 All-Star teams. Gary Payton made 9. Now, any one of these things is not the be-all, end-all of, comparing players. You have to take the totality of it and give it the proper context. You can't just count All-Stars or All-NBAs or whatever. No, but it's all of it. You got to look at everything. And again, Gary Payton was the best player on his team for probably at least half his career. He did play some on Miami. He won his championship with Miami. He was the point guard. 2004 with the Lakers, they got to the finals. He was the point guard, but he was not better than, Shaq or Kobe, maybe not even 40-year-old Karl Malone, probably about the same. And then in the 90s, he had Shawn Kemp on his team. I think Payton was still slightly better and the leader of that team. But, Kemp was a really good player. So this isn't really an apples to apples comparison, but they're so similar that it needs to be compared. So, Scottie Pippen, in his career, made 3 first-team All-NBAs. Gary Payton made 2 first-team All-NBAs. Pippen, 2 second-team. Gary Payton, 5 second-team. So if you're counting first and second combined, Gary Payton's got 7, Pippen's got 5. And third team, they each had 2 apiece of third team. So Pippen has 7 All-NBAs and Gary Payton has 9. So you could say that, Pippen has a slight edge in All-Stars and All-NBAs. But again, this is not apples to apples. You have to take the whole totality of it. They were both 22-year-old rookies that took years to develop, just very similar situations. That's what I hate about when people compare like a LeBron James to a Michael Jordan. LeBron James came in right out of high school. Jordan didn't, okay? He played college. You're holding it against Jordan to say, oh, well, LeBron's got 20 All-Stars. Well, for sure that Jordan wouldn't have got he led the NBA in total points as a rookie. You don't think maybe his junior year in college he would have been an All-Star level player? I think we all know the answer to that. He absolutely would have. So, all defenses, again, it's so close. Scottie Pippen's got 8 first-team all-defenses with 2 second-team. Gary Payton has 9 first-team. To me, that's a tie because Payton has more first-team, but Pippen has more overall, but it's those 2 second, to me, equals 1 first, more or less. So that's kind of a tie there. Now, if he would have had like 5 first and 5 second, then I'd say, okay, different story. But because he's close to him in first teams and the total, he's up by 1, I would say probably about a tie. Now, for MVP, again, Gary Payton was the best player, but he did have Shawn Kemp on his team where he got a couple of top 10 MVPs. So he was, taking away some of the stuff from Gary Payton. Not as much, obviously, as Jordan from Pippen. But in their careers, Scottie Pippen has 2 top 5s for MVPs. Gary Payton has 1. Pippen has 5 top 10s for MVP. Gary Payton has 8. Gary Payton has 6 in the top 6. And they both best finish was 3rd, each one of them. I'd say, again, Gary Payton maybe a slight edge on that. For Defensive Player of the Year, Scottie Pippen has 5 top 5s, 9 top 10s. Gary Payton has 6 top 5s, 7 top 10s, not quite as many. He has more top 5s, 2 less top 10s, but he has a Defensive Player of the Year winner, where he finished first for Defensive Player of the Year. So again, I'd call this probably a tie. It's close. I might even give a slight edge to Gary Payton because he won it, and he's got more top fives than Pippen. Okay, 20 points per game or more in their careers. Pippen has 4 seasons of averaging 20-plus points per game. His highest was 22.0 in 1994. Gary Payton has 7 seasons of 20-plus points per game. His career high was 24.2 in 2000. So definitely advantage Payton. They each have 1 steals leader. Each guy led the league in steals per game once each. Pippen has 6 rings. I know that's a terrible little symbol for ring, but and Gary Payton only has 1. Now, Gary Payton obviously played in a very tough conference. Right away, there was just some really good teams. There was Utah, San Antonio, Houston, Phoenix. Later on, into the later 90s, you had to deal with the Lakers and the Spurs. The Rockets were still, somewhat of a factor. Utah, they were great in those late 90s. They're, the best West team there was. So it was tough for Seattle was going to have to beat 2 or 3 really good teams to get to the finals. It was just going to be tough. They did do it in 96 by sweeping the Rockets, the only team to sweep Hakeem Olajuwon in a 4-game series was those 96 Sonics. Okay, so in their careers, they each have only 2 years where they shot over 50% from the field. Now, they both shot some 3-pointers. Similar players. Pippen was a facilitator, drive to the hole. Gary Payton, similar. Just, is a little smaller. I think he actually took a little more shots than Pippen did, but overall, similar. Scottie Pippen had 6 years of 19-plus points per game. Gary Payton had 9 years of 19-plus points per game. And of course, like I said, seven seasons of 20 or more. Pippen's got 4 of 20 or more. So I would say Gary Payton was definitely the better scorer. Now, this is very interesting right here. To me, this is the separator. Because all this stuff here, it's very close. And you could go either way with it. Even factoring in, Pippen being the second best player, winning the rings and all that, it's close. But to me, here's your separator right here. Scottie Pippen in his career, his assist to turnover ratio is 5.2 to 2.8, which means he's getting 1.85 assists to every turnover. Gary Payton has a ratio of 6.7 to 2.3. That means he's getting 2.91 assists to every 1 turnover. That's almost 3 to 1, where Pippen is under 2 to 1. So to me, that's definitely a separator, not turning the ball over. Now, 3-point shooting, Scottie Pippen was a 32.6% career 3, which actually isn't that bad. Gary Payton was 31.7, so about 1% better for Pippen. Free throw shooting, neither one of them were that great. Pippen was 70.4, Gary Payton was 72.6. So when you take that into account, I would say they're probably pretty close shooting the ball, in the ballpark, similar, along with the 2 years at 50% over, similar, definitely similar, scoring, shooting the ball, absolutely. But all things considered, I would say Gary Payton was just a smidge better than Scottie Pippen. I just do. I think Gary Payton was a better overall player than Pippen was. That's just my opinion. It's close. It's not a blowout by any means. It's really close. But do you ever hear anybody say that Gary Payton is a top 25 or 30, anything like that, all-time player? Of course not. But we're hearing this stuff about Pippen. How can Pippen be a top 20, 30, whatever, when he's not better than Gary Payton? He's just not. There's no way to prove that. Eye test, video, stat comparisons, whatever you want to go, longevity stats, season by season accomplishments, all these things. Gary Payton was just a little bit better. He just was. All right, so I got some other players that I think that are in the neighborhood of Scottie Pippen. And these guys are not even top 75 players. Okay, Joe Dumars. Now, right away, people are going to say, oh, Pippen was better than Dumars. Maybe, maybe not. Joe Dumars, like Pippen, was a 22-year-old rookie. He only averaged 9.4 points per game on 48.1% shooting. Of course, Pippen is at 7.9, 46.3. So Dumars was just a little bit better out of the gate. A little bit. Okay. Dumars is a 6-time All-Star compared to Pippen's 7. That's close. Dumars is only a 3-time All-NBA player. He's got 1 second and 2 third. Obviously, Pippen's got 7. He's got to beat. Okay. All defense. Dumars is a 4-time first team and 1-time second team. So obviously, Pippen has him beat there too. Okay. For MVP, he's got 1 top 10. Dumars does. He's got 4 in the top 17. Pippen obviously got that beat as well. Defensive Player of the Year, Joe Dumars has 4 times in the top 6. And Pippen is 5 times in the top 5. So Pippen maybe a little bit better defender. I would say that. Pippen was a little bit better defender than Dumars. I would definitely say that's true. So Dumars had 3 years of 20-plus points per game. And Pippen had 4 years of 20-plus points per game. Close. Now, Dumars had Isaiah on his team, and Pippen had Jordan. There was a couple years where Pippen didn't have Jordan. And Dumars, when Isaiah retired in 94, I think it was the very next year or the year after, here comes Grant Hill, another, excellent scorer and player that was the number 1 guy. Dumars had 7 years of 17 points per game, and Pippen had 9 years of 17, or 8 years of 17 plus points per game. So that's really close again. Now, Joe Dumars was a career 46% shooter, and I think Pippen was around the same. In 3-point shooting, Dumars was much better. He was 38.2 compared to Pippen's 32.6. The free throw line, Dumars was 84.3 to Pippen's 70.4. A much better shooter than Pippen was. The career assist to turnover, Dumars was 4.5 to 2 turnovers, so that's a 2.25 assist turnover ratio, which is better than Pippen's. Pippen's is under 2, which is not good. People never bring that up about Pippen, how bad he was at the assist turnover ratio. It's terrible. Being under 2 is just not good. Joe Dumars had 3 shots in the finals to win a finals MVP, and he got one. And Pippen had 6 shots at it and didn't get any. Now, does that mean that I think that Pippen, I think Dumars is better than Pippen? No, but I think that it's not that far off. I think Dumars is just a little bit under Pippen, sure, but Pippen is closer to a player like Joe Dumars than Pippen is to a player like David Robinson. Okay, that's just not possible. Okay, or like Karl Malone. Or, somebody like Kevin Garnett. No, Pippen is not on that level. He was the second best player in the 90s. I don't think so. Like I said, he's not better than Gary Payton. He just wasn't. All right, got a couple other guys. One of them is, how about Sidney Moncrief? Sidney Moncrief got his career shortened by injury. However, he was also, same thing, a 22-year-old rookie, only averaged 8.5 points on 46.8% shooting. Very similar to Pippen. Okay. He was a 5-time All-Star to Pippen's 7. He got injured during the 1987 season. It ruined his career after that. But he was on pace to do a Pippen-like career for sure. He had 1 first-team All-NBA and 4 second. So he had 5 first and second team. Well, that's what Pippen's got. He's got 3 first and 2 second. So they're tied there. There was no third-team All-NBA for Moncrief, because at that time there was only 2 teams. So Moncrief has 1 top 5 MVP, and he has 5 top 8 for MVP. So obviously Pippen has 2, but he's only got 5. Pippen's got 5 top 10. Moncrief has 5 top 8. So that's actually a little bit better. Now, for all defense, Moncrief had 4 first, 1 second, and obviously he's got 8 and 2. So literally double each one. He's got 8 to his 4, 2 to his 1. Okay, fine. But Moncrief has 2 Defensive Players of the Year. Pippen has none of that. So that's something that needs to be taken into consideration. And 4 Defensive Player of the Year, 4 times Moncrief finished in the top 3, where Pippen does have 5 top 5s, but he's only got 1 in the top 3, where Moncrief had won it twice, runner-up once, and finished 3rd once. So you got to give the advantage there to Moncrief for sure. Moncrief had 4 years of 20-plus points per game, same as Pippen. His career high was 22.5. Pippen's career high was 22.0. See this? He had 3 years of 50% shooting from the field or better. Now remember, this is a shooting guard. Pippen's a small forward. So it's comparable. 3 years of 50% or more. Pippen's got 2. All right. Sidney Moncrief is a career 50.2% shooter. For a shooting guard, that is excellent. And, Pippen is down more like 47%. Now, Moncrief has 5 years of 19.8 points per game or higher. Pippen does have 6 years of 19, but Moncrief is right there. He just had his career cut short. Now, neither one of them are very good at assists. In fact, Moncrief is at 1.8. He's at 1.85. So neither one of them are very good at the assist-turnover ratio. But Moncrief, like I said, he won 2 Defensive Players of the Year. Pippen didn't have any awards like that at all. He had his career cut short. His career high was 22.5 to Pippen's 20. So on and so forth. Moncrief shot as high as 54.1% 1 year. And for a 2 guard, that's excellent. Free throw shooting, Moncrief's at 83.1%. Pippen's at 70.4%. That's a 13% difference. Huge difference. Okay, last player. Another guy who had his career kind of cut short and hard to compare, but Alonzo Mourning. Do we think Pippen was better than Alonzo Mourning? Now, if you're talking longevity-wise, you probably would be able to make that case for Pippen. But I don't know if Pippen was better than Mourning. It's close. Now, he's going to have more first-team all-defenses and all that because Mourning got sick and injured, both. So that hurt him for sure. But Mourning is a 7-time All-Star, just like Pippen. Now, he was only 2-time All-NBA, but to be first-team All-NBA center in the 90s was very tough to do with Ewing, Robinson, Olajuwon, Shaq, all those guys, Mutombo, all that. Mourning, right out of the gate, finished second for Rookie of the Year. Same thing, 22 years old. He averaged 21 points, 10.3 rebounds. So he was right away polished. He was a grown man ready for the NBA. He only had 2 first-team all-defenses in 99 and 2000. I mean, Pippen's got 8 of them. Right. So you're thinking like, well, he swamps him in that. True. But Alonzo Mourning has 2 top 3s for MVP, where Pippen has 2 top 5s, but he only has 1 top 3. For Defensive Player of the Year, Alonzo Mourning has 4 top 8s, and I see Pippen has 5 top 5s and 9 top 10s. That's excellent, no doubt. But Alonzo Mourning has 2 Defensive Players of the Year, 2 block titles, to Pippen's 1 steals title. And again, you got to remember, Alonzo Mourning had about 8 years of an actual prime because after 2000, he was done. He did come back and, he did what he could do. But Alonzo Mourning had 6 years of 20-plus points per game. Pippen had 4, okay? Offensively, Mourning was better than Pippen, in my mind. His career high was 23.2. Pippen's is 22.0. Got to give advantage Mourning. He had 8 years of 19-plus points per game. Pippen's got 6. 2.8 blocks per game for his career is awesome. In 2006, Mourning won his ring. He was backing up Shaq because Shaq had missed some games, whatever. He played 20 minutes a game. He still managed to finish 8th for Defensive Player of the Year. My thinking is, if Alonzo Mourning at 35 years old could finish 8th for Defensive Player of the Year on 20 minutes a game, how good would this guy have been if we could have filled in that gap from 01 to 05? In those 5 years, he would have had all those stats. Though, he would have had all defenses, certainly would have had all NBA, he would have had all that stuff. We would have filled it in. So I just think that, Alonzo Mourning was a great player, underrated. I mean, he was a grown man. I got a lot of respect for Alonzo Mourning. And I think that Scottie Pippen is closer to a Sidney Moncrief, a Joe Dumars, an Alonzo Mourning, way more than he is, one of these other all-time greats, like an Oscar Robertson. I mean, come on. Or even like a Karl Malone or a David Robinson. Somebody like that. No, I don't think so. And I don't think Pippen is better than Gary Payton. I've seen all their film and all that. I think it's close, but I still would say Gary Payton is a slightly better player. Leave in the comments what you guys think. If you think Pippen is clearly better than Gary Payton, okay, that's fine. But I went through all of it. Pretty much I looked at everything. And there's no evidence to me that Pippen was better than Gary Payton. There's just no evidence of it. So other than winning, being on a winning championship team, other than that, there was just no evidence of it. And Payton did lead a team to the finals, but he had a tougher conference. I mean, Pippen had a chance in '94, they got lost in the semifinals. That's what happened. So anyway, that's all I got for this video. If you liked it, please hit the like button. Thanks for watching. And until next time.